Welcome let me pull this down for now. Welcome everybody to the show. This is Counter Clipping show number 178 for June 28th, June 24th, 2024. Obviously, I'm extremely well organized today. I did very little after getting back home from Origins yesterday, so if I'm a little addled, it's probably still just that. So I'd like to welcome everybody and thank everybody for coming out this evening. Our topic is going to be Origins, but I'm sure we're going to get to other stuff. I do not have enough content ready to go to talk about Origins, but there's a kind of a giant pile of news as well. And I am not talking solely, at least, about the Charles S. Roberts Awards, which we will not be reading off tonight. Anybody wants to see that, I will throw in a bit. I will throw the link to the press release in the chat. We'll talk about it relatively little, but there's some connected things that folks don't know about as well. We are drinking. This is Ohio wheat whiskey. This is from Middle West Spirits. Unfortunately, Middle West Spirits has gone way downhill. So this is the older stuff that is quite good if you like wheated whiskey, which I do. So in any case, let's make sure that everybody's being cool in the chat here. But I think it's going to be fine. So I'm going to remind everybody to like the video and subscribe to the channel should you already not be subscribed. There are a bunch of ways to support the channel in the video description, including the Patreon and the Noble Knight affiliate link. Noble Knight is the official Counter Clipping show sponsor, and we'll be hearing from them tonight. And I'll talk a little bit about the sale that they got going on right now as well. I actually had a short scheduled to let everybody know that, hey, Noble Knight's having a sale, and that short vanished. I have no idea what happened to it. I can't find it. If anybody remembers seeing it, say so in the chat, because I can't find it on my own channel. So I have no idea what has occurred there, but it's still going on. So we'll mention it tonight. It's like a buy two, get one free sale on select items, but it's Noble Knight. So select items is like 40,000 items, and there are some cool war games in there. So we'll worry about that. I wouldn't be totally surprised, Charles Latora. All right, I'll put the teaser up there. I have not updated the link to the Discord server, but my email's in there. If anybody wants to get into the Ardwulf Lair Discord community, please just let me know. I screwed this up, so let's fix that. And there's also the Patreon. Shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whose support and encouragement, we would not be able to continue doing this stuff. So this is the best theory I have heard thus far. So plausible. And as you can see, by the way, we are still clipping War in Europe. I had some minors to clip, and none of that got done, and as well as the allied generic markers. That's all that's left. I am still very confident we'll be able to fit this entire thing into 3 counter trays, 3 cube for me counter trays, with the special compartment dividers that I have 3D printed, which are up on the file repository, by the way. So patrons at the swordsman level and above, find the latest link to the file repository, and they'll be in there under counter tray dividers. Anyway, what do we got? Super chats, super stickers are on in case anybody would like to help support the show and incidentally get their comment highlighted so that I will not miss it. I will end up missing comments. I apologize for that, but a robust discussion typically happens on its own in the chat, and as long as everybody is cool and laid back, it is all good by me. So, ooh, nice. Paw has taken advantage of the Noble Knight sale for a copy of Vakdam Rhine. Very good. All right, so anyway, let's talk about the news first. So I'm going to pull up, we'll do the GMT update last here, because there's but that's what's going to take the longest as well. All right, so let me make adjustments. Go to that and go to that. All right. So Noble Knight is having of course, that's not showing up, buy 2, get 1 free. So everything's got to be like noted as buy 2, get 1 free, but you have a huge selection of stuff here. This is the banner that you're looking for. I'd appreciate folks using the affiliate link in the video description, which means I get a little bit of store credit, which helps us to work through toward, I should say, the current campaign, which is the campaign for the finished trilogy. We only need volume 3, and chances are pretty good that we'll have the bread for it once the next round of Noble Knight credit comes in. So I'd like to thank everybody who has used the affiliate link. So we're all aware now that there's a Noble Knight sale going on. I am not 100% sure on when this is going to end. I would not make assumptions that it will be running for much longer. Yes, this is exactly it. Everybody who didn't blow their budget at Origins, I blew the budget at Origins, as you will see evidence for in the slideshow that's coming. So, and yes, the cheap, I mean, this is how it always works, right? The lowest price. So be careful with your cart, right? The lowest priced item is the free item. So Mean Joe Green is quite correct here. All right. Another thing is, I guess we'll hit this first. This is the Charles S. Roberts Awards were announced last night. I will throw the link to the press release into the chat if anybody hasn't seen it yet and wants to go through it. I do appreciate the kind words that have been said, reflecting the hard work that I and a number of other participants put in to make these awards happen this year. It is a rather large amount of strain, let me put it that way. And as Patrick is pointing out here, we're about to get to this. Multi-Man, who were the recipients of 3 Charles S. Roberts Awards for Storm Over Jerusalem, Valley of Tears, and On to Richmond 2, have put all 3 of those games at 30% off MSRP. So, no. Sorry, John. I mean, you're going to have to, I am provisionally willing to eat balut for some amount of cash, but it is well north of $100, I got to tell you. Yeah, check these out. I can personally vouch for On to Richmond, which we played at Winterfest. Valley of Tears looks great, and I love the system. And Storm Over Jerusalem also looks good. So 3 solid games from MMP on sale for 30% off right now. So check that out at mmpgamers.com. No, they are not paying me to say this. So everybody's, at least I don't have COVID yet. We'll see. John C. from the sunny Philippines. So actually, let's say hello before we go any further with this. I probably waited a little too long. Alistair Logie, Biasia Atkins, Bayonet Brand from the Armchair Dragoons, Bill Simoni, Charles Latorre, David Zell, Findle 70, who I was fortunate enough to catch up with at Origins, Henry Sikorsky, Joe Faust from sunny Northeast Ohio, and it's nice today. Joe Hammond, Joe Okabayashi, John Stanley, John C. from the sunny Philippines, Jonathan Dyer, Mean Joe Green, Mark McNair, Maxwell Silver, welcome to the show. Meandering Mike here as always. Mike, thanks for stopping by. Please go follow Meandering Mike on YouTube if you have not done so already. His channel is called Meandering Mike, strangely enough. Michael Potts, Molotov Cockatiel Games, Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, who you should all also be following. Paul Sin, Paw, Robert Maxey, Scott Bell, Scott in Cincinnati, which is presumably a different Scott. Stacking Limit, Stigler, Vicky is here. Vicky, welcome back. William Aarons and William Bird, and I apologize to anybody that I have left off. And Utah Beach, that's the other piece of news that I don't have anything to show for it, but Utah Beach is, let me be specific, the latest Grand Tactical Series game, Utah Beach, or I should say the Greatest Day Utah Beach, is shipping now, and folks should be receiving it shortly. I was billed for it when I was at Origins, so in any case. All right, so we talked about the awards, we've talked about the MMP sale, we've talked about the Noble Knight sale. Let's talk about the monthly update from GMT. As usual, we are not going to go through this line by line. If you want to read the whole thing, go to GMT's website and read the whole thing. We're going to hit the interesting highlights. However, because we're war gamers, there's always errata. There was errata with the Charles S. Roberts Awards presentation, and there's errata here with the GMT Monthly update. And I'll tell you what the errata is when we get to it, which is actually good errata in this case, because it'll give me a bit of a room to breathe. So here it says, 2024 yearly GM sale. The gist of this is that they have a big annual sale where you can, depending on how many things you P500'd, that previous year, you can get a certain number of games at 50% off. They usually run that fairly late in the year, overlapping with everybody else's sales. This time they are doing it. Now, this says July, but that's the errata. The errata is that it will be in September, which is, to me, is better. It gives people a little bit of breathing room after the summer convention season to let their wallets recover. And Christ knows my wallet needs to recover. Perry Spiropoulos has just, Ordered Valley of Tears at 30% off. I mean, you got to be interested in the topic, right? Or be really love the system. I'm not super into the topic, but I really love the system. That's why I was excited to see Valley of Tears. And I knew Carl Fung, the designer, had been working on it for a good long time as well. The segment that I did for the awards show, which was the In Memoriam segment, is available on this channel now as well. There have been some kind words said about that too. We lost entirely too many people last year. That's just, part of life. I don't want to really discuss it in detail. All right, so let's see. Scott Rowland was playing GTS RFB. RFB. What's RFB? I'm brain cramping on that acronym at the moment. Scenario number 3. GTS plays very well solitaire, incidentally. I'm struggling with RFB, I got to tell you. In any case, Mark Herman's new book, War Games According to Mark, is going to the printer in late July. Let's hope there's not a errata on that, too. So this is going to be an invaluable tome for basically everybody in wargaming, I think. So it will be a foolish oversight to not get it while you can. And don't be shocked if it is not available for very long either. Oh, yeah, right. Race for Bastogne. Yeah, that's one. We set it up at Winterfest as our side game and never got to it. So that's why I did not register that. I did notice this, that Liz and Fred had Mark Ruggiero on. That's great. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. As you can imagine, my weekend was a little bit eaten. All right, so in addition to Mark's new book going to the printer in late July, we have new episodes of GMT Talk, which is available as a podcast or as a YouTube thing. What's shipping and what's next, we'll talk about that when we get down here. Let's hope that was not a severe hiccup. The computer has crashed like 4 times in the last 2 hours, so I hope that it will endure for the rest of the show. I'm not waiting. So I'm not waiting, John. You're being a wise guy. I'm aware of that. Hunt for Blackbeard is on Kickstarter. We had an interview with Volko on the Chit Show a couple of weeks ago. It looks pretty sharp. It's not a war game, but it is definitely a very interesting historical game, and Volko pretty much sold me on it through the course of the conversation. They had a prototype, which you'll get to see pictures of in a couple of minutes here. There you go. That would be a Windows update. Carl, thanks for stopping by, and congratulations on your Charles S. Roberts Award win. I did not put my thumb on the scale. So Hunt for Blackbeard, we'll take a look at that closer. And this is not from GMT. This is from Fort Circle Games, just so we're clear on that. I mean, sure, but I'll buy a physical book. I would totally buy it as an ebook too, frankly. So Harold Buchanan is here. Harold, thanks for stopping by. I think is Harold quoting song lyrics at us here? All right, so if you'll recall last year, GMT had a very reasonably priced but non-free errata counter sheet for the 2022 games. Here we're going to have a 2024 replacement counter sheet coming pretty soon. So chances are very good I will have something like 80+% of the games that require errata counters, so I'll obviously order that. But this is not on pre-order yet. So here is the box back for Commands and Colors Medieval Expansion #1, Crusades Mid-Eastern Battles 1. Wow, that's an awkward title. Who came up with that title? That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack there. I'm sure it will be a fine package. But that's just an awful lot to swallow in a title. Anyway, Jason Carr came to Origins and ran some stuff as well. It was great to see him in person. He looks terrific. So there's some talk from him on this, and he actually mentions Origins, but this was released like while he was there. So there's that. We've got the pre-order for Founders of Ravik, which is the Richard Garfield game that ties into the John Butterfield game, which is why I'm probably going to get it. Playtesters wanted for China's War and the Bell of Treason, Vassal module updates, designer interviews with, let's see here, Volko, Mark Simonich, and Arthur Dieterle. Kai Jensen was on with Liz, and Richard Garfield was on El Wargamero Novato, which is a fantastic name. I think we can agree. And Legendary Tactics talked to Ted Racer, designer of I, Napoleon. So P500 editions, these are both actually pretty exciting. And to me, at least, these are both things I will be buying. There's some second printings here as well. So the two new pieces are Purgatorio, which is Men of Iron Volume 6. That's Guelphs versus Ghibellines. I am all over that. That is an interesting period, and I like the Men of Iron system very much. So we are definitely going to grab that. The next one is Thunder on the, and we'll take a closer look at both of these. Thunder on the Baltic, which is Flying Colors Volume 5. I have played less Flying Colors than I would like, but I will be buying that as well, because I have all of the rest of the Flying Colors games. Except the one expansion, Serpents of the Seas. That's not an expansion, it's a standalone. That's the one that I don't have. So Perry Sparopoulos is also grabbed Valley of Tears, which again looks great. Just a matter of time till we get it on a table. In fact, it might be our next game after the thing we're playing now, which is CSS Saipan. We're getting back to that after our warm-up game of Brazen Chariots. Tom MC is excited by I, Napoleon. It is pretty soon, as we'll see in a minute, and says that Prime Minister is woefully underrated. I got to tell you that I'm going to hit this too, and I'll talk a little bit about something about that. About the thing I think that maybe keeps people away from it more than you'd expect. All right, so new play. We'll take a look at these now, I suppose. All right, so Purgatorio, Volume 6, Men of Iron. What battles do we have? Quite a few. Legnano, Nuova, Monteperti, Benevento, Tagliacozzo, Campaldino, and Zappolino. So looks like we got 7 battles here, which is great. And one of these is is thematically connected to the game Inferno, if you have that, which I had. You know what? I expected to run into a lot of issues playing CSS, especially out of the first game, Saipan, in the series, because the rule book's a little messy. It's not a little messy. It's messy, but it's not nearly as bad as I was led to believe. It's completely playable. You just have to scratch your head a couple of times and figure it out. Oh, McKenna's in the chat. How about that? We will get there. I am already behind on the chat. The show's barely even friggin' started here. Toast. All right, I will tell this story when the time comes. Okay, McKenna. So we will need to explain to somebody what toast is. So, I got a brief tutorial in pronouncing Italian names when I took the Renaissance Italy class, and I remember some of it, but that doesn't mean I can just throw unfamiliar names out of my pie hole. That's not how that works. Guam is bigger than Saipan. Tinian is smaller than either one. Tinian is 1 map. Saipan is 2 maps. Guam is 4 maps. And I forget how big Montelimar and the Little Land are. I have all of the World War II ones, and I will continue to support that series as long as they do World War II games and not games with elves in them. All right, so Thunder on the Baltic. This is going to be, this is probably Great Northern War type era stuff. A bunch of wars, actually. The Scanian War, the Great Northern War, the Gunboat War. So this will be entertaining. I have complete confidence in this. Okay, so Prime Minister. I don't have a position on this game. I didn't order it. It is thematically potentially interesting. I feel like this is a good cover that is weakened by the fact that the title is so friggin' small. I'm not sure what's up with that. GMT's done this several times now where the titles, I mean, it's certainly not every game, where the titles are really small and they do not jump off the box at you. And I wonder if, Prime Minister's already P500'd up for a second printing, so it can't have done that badly. But I feel like this cover is not as strong as it should be. I think if they just made that logo, that prime minister logo, left it exactly the way it was and just made it like 25% bigger, I think it would jump off the box a little better. So back to the update. New P500s on the horizon. All right, so a game that sees the Combat Commander series move to a new war. Y'all know how I feel about that. A game on the wilderness battles in the American Civil War. Now, what I am assuming and hoping this is, and if Stigler wants to verify this, he will be able to do so. I am hoping that this will be the GBACW game on the wilderness, which I am obviously all over that as well. Strategic level American Civil War game. That's very interesting in collaboration with the classic war game that will be coming back in a new GMT edition. I wonder if that could be a house divided. That is speculation. I don't know that. Nobody told me that, but I think it's a house divided. If I should William Aarons, I probably should have Dan on the show to pronounce the Italian names, but I didn't plan that far ahead to think I was going to have to pronounce Italian names. And then we have an operational World War II game set in Italy. That, I'm guessing, is the next game from Mark Simonich, which is going to be called the Gustav Line. I'm not sure if it's going to be called the Gustav Line, but it is going to be about the Gustav Line. So there we go. So Stigler has more or less blown the secret here. He will now be chased down by the GMT thugs for spilling the beans. So yeah, I expect that to be the case. And the Wilderness is the next ILAO, as we all know. Several games in development on the Wilderness, including a line of battle game, which I will also buy because I like that system a lot too. I don't have the original and have actually never played the original and find the various Mayfair editions kind of ugly. So if GMT wants to say hire Terry Leeds to do a new map for it, and, give it a nice GMT round of polish, yeah, no problem. I'll buy that. I could totally do that. The GMT Pinkertons. Very good. I should have used them as the example, actually. And Carl is working on Line of Battle Wilderness. As, we know, Carl is Chip Farr still involved as the developer on that. I don't know what... I haven't talked to Chip about it in a while, so... Yep, and I agree with Scott Rowland here. Bring on more Line of Battle and the new Line of Battle rules too, which Dean had been working on when he passed. So that's kind of got to get done too. So it takes as long as it takes. We're not in a hurry up and get started situation. So Carl is the honcho. If anybody was confused about that, Carl is the Line of Battle honcho, and as we said before. Carl's the logical choice for that, right? All right, so we couldn't we'd like to have Dean still, but we given that we don't, I can't think of better hands for those things to be in. So we have also been wondering on this if Carl and David Thompson perhaps are on the same variety of drugs that allow them to not sleep ever. That is a possibility. So the World Board Game Championships is coming up. It's in July 20th through the 28th. I should be there for at least a day and maybe a little longer than that. We will see. Hanseatic League War Games. Pretty sure there's a couple. I'd have to think about it. Perispropolis is sold based on Carl's work on it, so I'm happy about that. Carl clearly has never heard of Sleep. I like the art on the Prime Minister cover. Don't get me wrong about that. That looks fine. I just think the logo doesn't punch enough. All right. August 8th through 11th is SD HistCon East in Newport, Rhode Island. That's going to be a dynamite event. Historic KC Fest is coming up. That's supposed to be very good, although I haven't really talked to anybody. That's not true. I haven't been there. I've been tempted, and it was cheaper for me to go to Compass Expo to get COVID. So there's a Twilight Struggle Convention in Kythera, Greece, which is gorgeous, apparently. There's Czech ConSimCon, World Series of Board Games in Vegas. That's in September. And then the fall weekend at the Warehouse will be in October. So go. I'm not going to read all this information. Just go read it on GMT's website if you are considering attending any of these fine events. So, I would put Greg in the Sleepless Club too. That's absolutely true. John Stanley, first of all, thank you for the support. It is much appreciated as always. I don't know. I have this series, the Chancellorsville 1863 series from Worthington. That's something that I passed because I didn't think it was going to be my thing, and it still might not be. But I have since been led to believe in various conversations that there's a lot of interesting things going on with that system. So I will be checking that out, whether it's with Chancellorsville or one of the follow-up games or not. So stay tuned on this. I don't have an answer for that at the moment. All right, so rally the troops. I still have not got my Combat Commander throw from Kai. I need to get on that. The Origins kind of sucked all the oxygen and money out of the room for the moment. So that'll be a couple of months. More stuff from Board Games Chronicle, who as ever is doing tremendous work. Space Corp How to Play from Scott the Frozen Gamer. I found Space Corp really easy to play. I don't know. It's pretty easy game. I will say I thought that the competitive version of the game was a little easier to grok than the solitaire version. Let me put it that way. But it's not solitaire, so there's that. All right, so charging and shipping update. This is where we've been scrolling to, folks. Charging on June 27th, which is this week, will be Downfall, the mounted map, and the 3-inch box, second printing. I, Napoleon from TED. Virgin Queen and Skies Above the Reich, second printings. Of these, I, Napoleon, I have Downfall, and it also won a bunch of CSR awards, by the way, and it looks really good. And I am reasonably convinced. This is, Patrick, bear in mind, I may be blocking it, subliminally blocking it out. So, but on the other hand, Combat Commander Vietnam might give me a reason to at least try Combat Commander again. I am intrigued enough by that to give that a shot. I will not be purchasing it, however. I don't have the shelf space or the money. So, in any case, I, Napoleon looks pretty interesting, and it's from Ted Racer, who I would put on my list of top designers in the hobby. So there's that. So the next shipments, now that this sounds a little tentative, but they are planning to charge sometime say in the last week of July. And those charges will be Labyrinth, The Awakening, second printing, Labyrinth, The War on Terror, which is the main game, fifth printing, which is a great game, by the way, if you haven't played it. Labyrinth, 3-inch box, Next War Iran, which I'm on the hook for, Normandy 44, 4th printing, and the mounted map and 3-inch box. This game does not need a 3-inch box. It fits comfortably in one counter tray, in my opinion. Would it be nice to have a second counter tray? Sure. This is John Stanley. This is the scuttlebutt. I would not consider this confirmed news, but this is the scuttlebutt. So, and Brant and we'll talk about the raffle too when we get to the Origins stuff, which will be next-ish. But there you could have won a copy of Downfall in the raffle. I don't feel like I need the mounted map, which means I also don't need the 3-inch box. That's why I'm not on the hook for that. And Red Dust Rebellion will be charging in that next batch as well. Now, I have not pre-ordered this, but I'm going to end up buying this, I'm sure. It's up my alley. Now, finished shipping, Just of Robin Hood and the Bayonets and Tomahawks second printing. Please check out the interview that we did with its designer and the graphic designer, Mark Rodrigue, a couple of weeks ago on the Chit Show. So, Charles Latoro has away team. Yeah, so away team, I'd be stunned if away team was not really cool. So, and John C. said, Gene mentioned it. I don't think I watched that seminar, so I would consider that effective confirmation on that. I didn't see Just of Robin Hood at Origins, but I didn't do one of the things that I typically do at Origins, which is to walk around just taking pictures of all the Wargame or Wargame adjacent stuff. I didn't do none of that, but I did very little of that. So, Stuart, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, hey, welcome back to the regular time, I guess. All right, in the warehouse, late June, charging in that batch that we talked about. More counter trays. Let's hope the lids fit. Downfall, I, Napoleon, Virgin Queen, and Skies Above the Reich. At the overseas port, shipping in 2 shipments in late June and early July include Battle Line 12th printing. I'm not sure I realized that Battle Line has had 12 printings. I've actually played it. I'm pretty sure I didn't dump it. I think I still have it. It's a fun little light card game, plays in like 20 minutes or so, something like that. John Stanley, Combat Commander Korea, you could easily do that, right? So Mike Berticelli, thanks for stopping by. Says the weight tape is very cool, and like I said, I'd be given the kind of game that it is and the designer that it has, I would be flummoxed if this was not very cool. So I'm sold on that. Nobody needs to sell me on that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is a popular game. It's certainly light. It's fun. It's vaguely Ancients war game themed. But it's, you know, I couldn't consider it in good conscience a war game. In any case, did I get all those? Yes. Okay. So at the printer, but there's no ship date yet, is CNC Medieval Expansion, blah, 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 with 13 titles. Comancheria second printing, that's supposed to be a very good game. Congress of Vienna, which I'm very interested in seeing, and Wolfpack, which I am interested in seeing. Going to the printer late this month, Space Empires, all the stuff. You will see pictures of Space Empires set up and being played at Origins. All Good Things is the title. I think it's a... So this is an example where I will absolutely praise GMT or Jim Crone, whoever came up with this title. It's a fabulous title for the last Space Empires expansion. Because everybody's going to connect it with that very memorable last episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is just a regular episode, really. It's just a good one. So in addition to that, the other two expansions and the core game are going to the printer as well. And the Talon third printing, which is connectable to Space Empires, is going as well. In final art and proofing. Now, I don't think... Remember, folks, that I think these categories are meant to give you an idea of how far in the pipeline these games are without necessarily being specific about what they're waiting on. Okay, in this case, World at War fourth printing and mounted maps. I don't think they need art for that, right? That's been through a million printings already. They don't need to do art for that. Was that Cavalry? That was Cavalry. Just got to make sure I know where everything's at here. So, all right. Buy Swords and Bayonets, 1 to 2 months from going to the printer here, folks, which means I think we'll see that this year. I wouldn't necessarily bet a lot of money on that, but there's a pretty good chance. Fields of Fire Deluxe Edition and the update kit Fighting Formations on the US 29th. Holland 44 second printing. Dynamite Game Hoplite second printing, which I don't need because I've already got. In the Shadows, which is about the French resistance. No Retreat, the Russian Front Deluxe. I'm unclear as to what they mean by deluxe, because the last one was fairly deluxe. Was that deluxe too? I'm not sure about that. Seljuk Byzantium Besieged by our good friend Justin over at the Justigard YouTube channel. That's his game, and it is a Levian campaign game on another very interesting topic we don't see tons of games about. So I'm very interested in seeing what Justin has come up with there. And we had an interview with him sometime back as well. So what's next? Battle for Normandy Deluxe Edition. So this is another one that I think there is a good but not necessarily certain chance that we will see this year. That I am on the hook for. I like the original edition of the game. I can see a few things that I would improve, not a whole lot. I think it is a very solid game already, and this will include the expansion material as well. So apparently it's the XL Deluxe Extreme Edition. And War Games According to Mark, the book. So, get in on that. I expect that to not hang around very long. So there's that. So Stuart, please fill us in on when we can expect a new episode of We Intend to Move On Your Works, which is outstanding, and you're doing an outstanding job with it. And my only problem is that there aren't enough episodes. That's intriguing. I don't think I noticed that or didn't remember that the partisans were on the back of the Yugoslavian inventory. All right, so Jonathan Dyer says that word is the Holland 44 reprint has enough counter changes to warrant calling it a second edition. That's interesting. Now, I could be probably talked into an update kit, but I mean, we did not observe. I've played it several times, and we did not observe any critical problems. All right, so in final art and proofing, 3 to 4 months away from going to the printer. This probably means that if they are released this year, they will be at the very end of the year, and you never know when a delay might occur. So, on the other hand, these are actual partisans. I'm confused. All right, Battles of the American Revolution Tri-Pack number 2. I'm in on that. Cross Bronx Expressway. I haven't ordered that, but I'm going to get that. That's a pretty interesting looking game. Cuius Regio, which looks amazing, and I will grab that. Infernal Machine, which I was not super hot on, and then I forget what I saw. Might have been a interview with Jerry White about it. He's one of the designers, and it actually sounds pretty cool. Mr. President Second Edition, I might buy that too. Thunderbolt, already ordered. The Weimar Republic. I'm interested in hearing more about that before I am pushed the button. Well, I'll back Fred up on this. Editing sucks. So, if anybody out there who has a passion for video editing wants to help out, let me know. I friggin' hate editing. So there's that. So yeah, I am delighted. It goes to the top of my podcast listening list every time I see a new one. So I'm not necessarily because I read Carl Fung's blog, and I know that he has put an enormous amount of efforts of research into the Market Garden Order of Battle. So if anybody's going to turn up new Order of Battle details, Order of Battle for Market Garden is actually pretty tough, especially for the Germans. For the British and Americans, not so much, but for the Germans, a lot of it was these scratch forces. Who the hell was this? Here's the marching band. I mean, who's gonna keep track of all that? That's a tough task. So I am not particularly surprised that there's Order of Battle updates for Market Garden. I'm slightly surprised maybe that there's significant enough to creep into the scale that Holland 44 is at. My head's already killing me here. Hexy, thanks for stopping by. All right. And then Unconditional Surrender and Zheng He. And I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but that's what I got in me tonight. All right. In the art department, we're just going to talk about the new stuff that's moved up. Commands and Colors Napoleonics Grand Battles. That's the only thing that status has changed on. In the art department, nothing new there. In pending artist assignment is A Fading Star, Defiance, A Pipalai, Iron Storm, Order and Opportunity, The Guerrilla Generation, and Zhizhka. More than one of those look fairly interesting. Don't assume that these are in some kind of development hell because they're where they are right now. They just haven't assigned a final artist to them yet. That's how I'm interpreting that. So, all right. And then what do we got here? Here's we'll zoom out a little bit here so that we could actually see the box. Now this is, I think, a fairly strong cover. At least that you could, the title is punchy enough. That's not just the size, that's also the level of contrast, and there's good contrast here. You are in command. Nevertheless, that's a little cheesy, but I like this system. So it's good light war game series. Here is what looks to me to be a newly designed cover for Comancheria. I think that's a real strong cover. It's a Joel Toppin game. It's very highly regarded. It is a solitaire game, I think. Here's sample cards for In the Shadows. Those look good. Here's map samples for Morgan, Guyane, Retiz. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Hubris, Twilight of the Hellenistic World. These are samples. I wouldn't think these are final. But I think this looks great. I was interested in this as soon as Morgan started talking about it. So, yeah, that's true. That's true. Captain Nolan's quite right. That's very similar to something Avalon Hill used to put in their ads. So what font are they using for Commands and Colors Medieval for the title? Well, it's not, if it is, it looks a little like Papyrus, but I don't think it's Papyrus. I mean, remember that a graphic artist can put a little embellishment on it too. It has a Papyrus type look, but I don't think it's Papyrus. All right, so Hubris all over it. Space Empires, all good things. Definitely buying that. Here's counters. I'd kind of like to take a closer look at these. Here's some stuff for, there's a project update for Away Team here. Again, that's something to be pretty, assuming you're interested in sort of a narrative-based science fiction game, that I would definitely give that a very serious look. It's definitely not Comic Sans. And like I said, it's not Papyrus, but it does look a little like Papyrus. I'm not that good, Brant, that I can just pop that out. So I can probably identify some of the fonts that I use all the time. Let me put it that way. All right, additional stuff down here. We got some stuff for Coast Watchers. We got some stuff for Joe Chacon's Decisive Action. Here's some more stuff from Defiance. This is not final graphics, folks, so don't get your knickers in a twist over it. This is going to be something to keep a close eye on as well. I appreciate that lots of folks will be leery of games on the conflict in Ukraine this early. It's Mark Herman and David Doctor. I trust Mark to do right by this. And I believe it is an evolution of the Gulf Strike system as well. I like this. I would investigate a font called Times New Norman, to be completely honest. All right, what else do we got? We got some card art for Founders of Ravik. Stuff for Tank Duel, South Asian Monsoon design update. We got some stuff from Joe Dewhurst on China's War and the Bell of Treason. And here's the reprint tracking. We're not going to go through that in detail. All right, so let me pull this down. And then load. That's great move, Gary. Nice job, dipshit. Anyway, I see. Now we've got like the whole thing going on, the whole experience coming on here, right? So oh yeah. Carl's quite right. It's not Gulf Strike. I had this mixed up with the Gulf Strike, new Gulf Strike edition that's coming. It is Flashpoint Goan, which is a pretty sophisticated looking game system. That's another thing that makes me interested in it. I'd like to see what or David and Mark do with that. So I will be following that with some interest. All right, so let me pull up the slideshow. Assuming I pulled up the slideshow. This is going to take just a moment, folks. I had this, but I may have lost it when the computer crashed. So. All right, so Origin slideshow. We pop that in. All right, so this is exactly as exciting a photo as it looks like. This was my lunch. This is the kind of high on the hog life we have at Origins, I'll tell you. This was from Chicken and Eggs in the Hyatt food court. I think Chicken and Eggs kind of sucks, but I think that when I was there, they were the only place that was open besides Jets and Subway, and that's why I ate there. Yeah, so not great. All right, so they had these little new release showcases scattered throughout the concourse. You'll notice that there's a new edition of Kremlin. That is the same Kremlin that was once published by Avalon Hill. Well, it's... Okay, I got two different kinds of cavalry here. I'm not sure if it's the same edition because the different versions of Kremlin have varied quite a bit over the years. I don't know that you'll get this in the game, and I am very reluctant to blame the chaos of Triumph of Chaos on the designer. I think that's kind of par for the course for, I don't want to say par for the course. That's a little harder than I mean it, but I mean, it's a Clash of Arms thing. Clash of Arms usually has some issues. So, no, there was no gruel, unfortunately, I suppose. This was before Brant got there, or after Brant left. Believe it or not, he was not actually standing in the area over everybody's shoulder the entire time. That was not ketchup. That was just straight hot sauce, because Chicken and Egg has nothing else to put on it besides ketchup and hot sauce. I despise ketchup, so that was not me. So I am unfamiliar with everything else in this case. There will be, by the way, a dealer's room walkthrough video. The loot videos turned out to be a little more complicated because I filmed it and the footage is crap. So I may need to redo it. But you should see the dealer's room walkthrough this week. Emergency room hot sauce is not a terrible idea. We'll have to talk about toast. So we'll get, let's see here. So this is one of the command post exercises. Again, these are one of those things that I recommend all wargamers do at least once. There's plenty of places for food, but I had blisters on my left foot on like day one, and I was trying to keep walking down. That was not a successful effort. So I was, I could have walked to North Market more than I did, for example. There's tons of places to eat around there. That's not a problem. Brant says the font is Galahad, which is not one I'm familiar with. Yes, but I hate ketchup. It's a running joke between my wife and I, because she loves ketchup. She puts ketchup on everything except eggs, thankfully, because I take great pride in my ability to cook eggs, and it's the one thing that I am totally comfortable cooking. And if somebody put ketchup on eggs that I made, I would personally be offended. In any case, so I guess since we're on the food topic, so, you don't necessarily have tons and tons and tons of free time here. So you go to the wherever you can get food, and it's fine. I ate breakfast most of the time at the Hyatt food court, and typically you'd go down there, and I get up reasonably early. So I would be down there sometime between 6:45 and 7:15. And at that time, there's really only one place open, Fame's Diner. Fortunately, Fame's Diner is my personal favorite place to eat in the Hyatt facility. It's kind of weird because they have like Mexican food, burgers, and Indian food. And I always get the Indian food unless it is breakfast. So I'm in line. It's 7:30 in the morning. It's like 7 in the morning. I have had no coffee yet. I'm super cranky. I am the kind of person who wakes up and immediately is hungry. And I am very cranky if there is some obstacle between me and putting food in my yap. So I'm waiting in line, just trying to be, looking at my phone, trying to be patient. Now, this nice old Indian family runs the Fame's Diner, right? And I used to actually, when I worked down there, used to walk down there for lunch sometimes. It's that good. So, real nice people. Two people in line ahead of me. A gentleman who is of my gender, approximate age, rough ethnic derivation, so somewhere from the Midwest, and skin tone, had to ask the people at Fame's Diner what toast was. The guy behind the old gentleman behind the counter was like, What are you talking? Well, sir, it's bread and we toast it, and we could put butter on it if you, or maybe jam. There's jam. We have jam. He had to explain what toast was to this individual. I was baffled, and I was, like I said, I was cranky. I'm glad this didn't happen. However, if I had not been there alone at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I had had somebody else with me, I'm sure I would have done this, because I was pretty close to doing it without anybody. I would have handed them the phone and then paraded up and down the entire 30-person line, because there's 30 people in line behind this dumb fuck, who needs to have toast explained to him, who are all waiting for their food and tapping their feet very patiently. I was prepared to walk up on camera, to walk up to every person in line, sir or madam, do you need to know what toast is? Because I feel I can explain it to you before you reach the person running the cash register at the counter, so as not to delay everyone's breakfast still further. I was prepared to be extremely demonstrative about it. I'm glad I was only there by myself. Had there been somebody with me to hold the phone, you'd be watching a video of this right now. So, in any case, all right. So that's that story. All right, Danny Parker, thanks for stopping by. It's always a delight to have Danny in the chat. All right, I mean, this is not complicated breakfast, folks. This is sandwiches with sausage and egg, or an omelet with egg and maybe a hash brown and toast, right? We're not talking about, strange brunch menu here. So, Kroger's thing. We've got the weird Kroger's, the weird Ohio plural that sometimes gets applied to people like this. So, I don't know. It's plausible that it's 7 a.m. and he hadn't had any coffee yet either and was just completely out of it. I was being sustained by my rage at that point. So this is possible. This is possible. What do I know about, hey, it's a we have free exercise of religion in this country. If you are a member of some anti-toast sect, then that is your business as far as I'm concerned. So apparently so. So the other thing was that the hotel, this could have been my fault, and to some extent it definitely is, because I was sent multiple confirmations by Hilton about the hotel reservation, but I'm standing there at the counter and they're telling me it's 3 nights instead of 4. So what that ended up meaning was I didn't have to, but I had no hotel for Saturday night. And they're like, well, we could put you on the waiting list. Well, how many people are on the waiting list? About 80. So that seems pretty impractical. And I certainly don't want to have to relocate everything in mid-convention. Fortunately, my last responsibility was on Saturday, and my roommate, who is Jim Werbineth, who those of you who know Jim is, also had his last thing on Saturday once some slight schedule alterations were made. So we managed to make it work, and both of us left on Saturday. So there was one less day at Origins, but on the other hand, because I had to rent a car again, I was going to have to leave pretty early on Sunday morning anyway. So there's that. Mo from Mo's Game Table. Mo, thanks for stopping by. All right. So moving on from the food picture. Brant, thanks for the support. Much appreciated. Toast was the free space on this week's. Shit. I forgot to put him in the chat. Brant's got new bingo cards. And Brant, I don't remember where you sent me those, whether it was on Facebook or what. In any case, Brant's got new bingo cards over at the Armchair Dragoon side. Go check them out. This was always going to be a show with a lot of drift, this particular episode. So Mike was also there from My Own Worst Enemy, another excellent YouTube channel that you should all be following. So Captain Nolan, thanks so much. Oh, we do have there's a giveaway tonight. It's not the giveaway I was planning. So what I got are codes from Slytherin for a variety of their games. And I'm like, well, cool, I'll take one too. And then I'll give the rest away on the stream. And I can't get the things to work. So it's possible I'm doing it wrong. So tonight we'll be giving away something different. There will still be a giveaway. So no, they're not. They're super sweet people there. This guy was just like, what? What is wrong with you, you silly non-Indian person? There you go. I was concerned about the messaging of this, but I believe you will be seeing Tweezer Mafia t-shirts available in the Ardwulf's Lair merch store before too long. Let me put it that way. In any case, I mean, there's a variety of explanations that do make sense. I'm not going to speculate, but I wasn't going to get confrontational with the guy either, so there's that. What was the Ohio version of Kroger? The Ohio version of Kroger is Kroger. So we have plenty of Krogers in central Ohio, not so much up here in northern Ohio. Giant Eagle, which is a little better, mostly not that much. So outstanding. The Civil War Heritage series. Am I getting that right? That's going to be a great series for years to come. So, and I think, I don't know, like so many industries where there's been huge consolidation over the last 40, 50 years or so, the grocery store chain situation is another one. In any case, I recognize nothing in this particular new release showcase. This is pull that down. This is very good. Jack Thompson's in Ashland. Way to go, Jack. I'm not that far away from you. So welcome to the show. Command post exercise. Every wargamer should do this at least once. You will learn a great deal. This is Song for War. So the current Song for War plan is to break it up into 2 somewhat smaller games. This is the Italian one. I actually think this might have been a really, really great idea to break it up in this way. I'm not sure Dan even owns a pair of tweezers. So I've got like 30 pairs of tweezers. That is not even an exaggeration. I have shown the picture before. On the other side of this wall is a wall-mounted tweezer storage rack that I designed and 3D printed to hold the tweezers for public use. So, I mean, this is true of every grocery store now, though, to be fair. So they keep saying this is like it's like Axis and Allies on a little bit of steroids. I think that's selling it short. I think this is a very interesting looking game, and I think it's more interesting now that they've split it. This was captured in the open. This picture was taken in the open gaming area. This is Hegemony. This is an economic simulator in the guise of a Euro style game. I have this. I have not yet played it. I'm really interested in playing it. I did not get to participate in. You'll see some pictures of it. I didn't get to participate in the Aaron Arbor demos, which Bruce Harper and his developer Fred Schwartz were doing. It looks dynamite. I will definitely be picking that up. Yeah, there you go. Much better combat system than Axis and Allies, which that's not surprising. Scott in Cincinnati says Hegemony is pretty amazing. This is not the Rand Hegemony that came out a couple years ago. Totally different game. It's not spelled the same either. Brant's going to be mad at me, but every year I talk about, next year I just want to kind of go to, wouldn't it be awesome to just go to Origins and have fun as like a regular person and not have to do all this running around and get to play stuff. So it's probably not going to happen, but I'll keep it in mind. Let me put it that way. All right. So, so there's like a whole a large accompanying seminar, large accompanying thesis on the economic model, the political and economic model that is behind the game. It's really intriguing looking. Maybe, I'm not sure. It's not the same publisher, because the publisher is Hegemonic Project Games. It's a publisher just for this. I don't think I'm not sure if there's a solo mode for this or not. I don't think so. So, in any case, the game looks really interesting. Check this out. And yes, they are doing, as you can see down in the corner here, they are playing in this amazing Circus Maximus arena with the classic Avalon Hill Circus Maximus. So I had to grab a picture of this. I need some whiskey. All right, this is the atrium of the Hilton across the street, so I'm not sure why I took a picture of that. So out in the hallway, they had a number of displays showing various things, and I took a bunch of pictures. You'll see a bunch of these. I took a bunch of pictures of the Hall of Fame display because I thought it was kind of cool that they did this. And I'll talk about this in a bit here. So this is the Academy of Adventure Gaming Arts and Designs Hall of Fame. Okay. And it's part of the Origins Awards, as far as anybody knows. I reached out to them trying to, at least kind of come up with some kind of amicable handshake deal where we don't have to bother each other. And they didn't return my email. So there's that. So, yes, exactly. Brant deserves one of these Origins probably more than I do, actually, because he's been doing this longer. So, and if that means McKenna's in charge, I'm pretty much cool with that. So that's fine. Oh, yes. Okay. So, yes, this is true. Hegemony Lead Your Class to Victory is the game I'm talking about and which was pictured up there. I'd be interested in this too, actually. I'm interested in economic games if they seem like there's like a model behind it and it's not just a Euro game. And that's definitely true of Hegemony. So, there was a point at which the Origins Awards and the Charles S. Roberts Awards were the same award. That's no longer the case. That's really all I'm willing to say about that situation at the moment. There was a split. We've talked about it a little bit. It's not secret. It's just that I'd kind of like to have a conversation with the Origins Awards people, but they don't want to have a conversation with me. So there you go. In any case, here's our photo of Redmond Simonson, inducted 1977. Here's Gary Gygax, inducted 1980, which is still pretty early. They made some misstatements in the Origins Awards speech about the history of the awards, but I'm not going to really scream at them about that. This is the individual, one of the individuals at least. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Vangelis Begirtakis. That's actually probably not that far from accurate. So here's Mark Miller. Of course, I'm a big fan. Mark is a delightful fellow. Steve Jackson, who I have also met and played Car Wars with back in the early 90s at a Gen Con. They had this very elaborate Car Wars setup at the time. David Arnson, of course, co-designer of Dungeons & Dragons. Frank Chadwick, who I'm sure we'll all be familiar with at this point. Here's Lou Zaki, who's frankly, I'm happy that Lou's still with us. And I love this like professional magician photo that they have of Lou too. The late Greg Stafford, unfortunately, Greg is no longer with us. He founded Chaosium, which published a number of war games in its early days. And here's the late Rick Loomis of Flying Buffalo, who is also no longer with us, and it was also inducted in 1998. Okay, well, we'll cut away from that and we'll get back to that. This is the day one loot. You'll see more loot later, so I'll show you more loot. Here's the day one wargaming loot. Here's the C3I 37. Here's 36. I was 2 issues behind. This is a game we talked about when we talked about the Best of SPI. This is that 4-pack of S&T games that are Operational Ancients games by Joe Miranda. This looks very intriguing. And Decision had it, so I'm like, well, shit, I'm here. It's here. I might as well buy it. So here it is. I will tell you that just looking at the maps and counters, it does look like they are the excess maps and counters from the magazine issues. So if you expected a major component upgrade or overhaul, we weren't going to get it here. But nevertheless, the game looks pretty intriguing, so I'm very interested in digging into it. Next up is the deal of the show. You'll see this in the, here's our giveaway tonight, folks. Dungeon Crawl Classics. They had it on sale for $10 at the Goodman Games booth, and that's an unbeatable deal. And we'll do the giveaway in a bit, but it's a very good D&D family game. Let's put it that way. Here's some Traveler stuff that I picked up on day one. We'll talk about all this. Here's Greg Stolte's Reign, which is pretty cool. David Thompson, thanks for stopping by. And here's the stuff I picked up from Chaosium. This is actually all I picked up from Chaosium, other than for some reason I didn't take a picture of the free Call of Cthulhu adventure they gave me. This is Gareth Skarka's Far West. This was a Kickstarter that Gareth launched a long time ago, and it took a long time for him to get this done. And it almost killed him. So he, remember that the people running Kickstarters are human and not necessarily doing whatever it is that they're doing because they are crooks. Sometimes shit just gets in the way. But it's out now, which is fantastic for Gareth. I'm very happy for him. So I also have the first edition of Reign. Next up is the Smurf Battle. I could not take a picture of the Smurf Battle. Unfortunately, there was no actual battle underway when I walked by, but the Smurfs were battling. I don't believe it's a solitaire. It's called Scritch Scratch, I think. I don't think it's a solitaire. So, absolutely, Alistair, absolutely. So here's our game. I took relatively few pictures of our game, which is actually typical for me. I tend not to hover over our game and take tons of pictures of that and ignore everything else. This is BCS Brazen Chariots. We had a fabulous time with it. It didn't move as far as we wanted it to, but we had to teach people, and we did have a couple of busted slots where nobody showed up. We had only sold one seat and nobody showed, so we busted 2 slots in that way. But that said, Those 2 slots were also kind of right when the dealer's room was opening, so I kind of think that might have had something to do with it. So we'll have, we'll think about that when we schedule next year's slots. Let me put it that way. So yeah, but we had a great time with it, and we also had. And this happened with Europa too. I'm not remembering that it happened with Third World War, where people kept coming back. We had one fella that was with us on, I think, Thursday and came back Friday and came back Saturday. So people enjoyed this. So, and don't roll 2 on the snafu table. We did have a couple of those. This is 10K Games game Symphony for Destruction, which is in development. I wouldn't count on seeing it all that soon. But what you will probably see fairly soon is an interview that I did with them and recorded and just have to edit and get it put up on the channel. So you'll see that in the next couple of weeks, and you'll see some more graphics here. These are not final graphics on either the counters or the map. So FYI, this is East Front operational, and it's Army Group North Sector 41 to 45, which is kind of an unusual configuration. It went really well, and we had a great time with it. This is the Quattrobra game, if I'm not mistaken. There were 2 miniatures games, unless I'm forgetting about a third one, and I think I am. We had this, and we'll see another picture of the Pico Armor Panzerblitz game that was running as well. Here's more. I really just took these pictures to aggravate Jim Ozarski for not showing up. But this looked fun. This is, what is this? This is Kevin Bertram's game on ancient Rome, and I don't remember what it's called, or I don't know if it's Kevin's design, but it will be coming at some point from Fort Circle Games. Roman political game? Yep, I'm probably up for that. I can probably deal with that. This is a picture of Aaron Armour. Neither of the people in the picture here are Bruce or Fred, but this looks terrific. And the folks at Compass know it looks terrific, so they've already got like 2 to 3 additional volumes in development. Maybe that's possible. I'm not sure. I thought so. Yeah, sometimes there is stabbing. Here's Space Empires 4X. Before they got started, I think I got another picture later on. This is a terrific Space 4X board game, right? This is old school science fiction war game. I love this game. It is terrific. It does a lot of what the old Stellar Conquest did, whether Stellar Conquest, Stellar, I think it's called Stellar Conquest, which was originally from Metagaming and then was picked, which was actually rejected by Avalon Hill, but then later picked up by Avalon Hill. Which was interesting. So, but the modern successor to that, without being particularly mechanically similar, but broadly it's very similar. Jim Crone's Space Empire is terrific. Yep. An effort was put into getting Bruce and Fred and Aaron Armour there. Here is one of the games of Normandy 44 for the 80th anniversary, Stellar Conquest. There's Stellar Conquest, Stellar Horizons. I could get them mixed up too easily. This is Arabian Nightmare, which I believe is from Catastrophe Games. This looks interesting. We had some people playing, enjoying this. This is Twilight Struggle. That was my phone hitting the floor. This is Twilight Struggle Red Sea. I believe Jason Carr was running this. This is, before they had set up fully, this is the Panzerblitz Pico Armor setup. And I think it is after 9, folks. So we're going to take a quick siesta here and hear very briefly from our good friends at Noble Knight, the sponsor of the Counterclipping Show. Don't forget, folks, there's a buy 2 on selected items, but it's Noble Knight, so selected items is like 40,000 items. Buy 2, get 1 free type of sale at Noble Knight right now. And there is an affiliate link in the video description, so if you'd like to help support the channel, a great way to do it is to use the affiliate link. That gives me Noble Knight store credit if you, eventually anyway, and we're working toward the 3rd volume of the finished trilogy. And that sale's probably gonna end pretty soon. So take it away, Noble Knight.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
I will point out that, as David doesn't say it quite this way, but I did think it was a great idea that the HMGS people were basically right next to us this year. I think that's a good idea. That's where the Smurf battle was, too, so I'm not sure what point of history the Smurfs were battling, but that's where that was. And the Warlord Games people were on the other side of us, too, so it does appear that more so than usual, some thought was put into arranging like groups with like groups in the gaming hall. So, all right. So continuing on as we go, let's get some whiskey first here. The Pico armor, I think, is 2 or 3 millimeter or something like that. So this is worth it for somebody who's into miniatures and specifically looking for Civil War or Napoleonic miniatures rules. Could do worse than looking this fella up. Steve Fratt. He's got a Napoleonic system and a Civil War system, and he talked to me about some of the mechanics in there, and it seems pretty nice. And I backed away slowly because there were miniatures involved. But we may do an interview with Steve. Nice fella. And he's a reenactor as well, as you can probably tell from the picture. And his system looks intriguing. So we may be having a conversation with him about that. Here is his Civil War rule set, Small Deadly Space. And here is his miniatures. I believe these are 15 millimeters. But he's using these like acrylic or acetate miniatures that you pop off a sprue and glue to a base, rather than the miniatures you got to paint, which is another thing that I think is a brilliant idea. Commando Solo says Pico is 3 millimeter, which sounds right. So there we go. Cactus Air Force is moving forward. Glad to hear that, Vicky. So, oh shit. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Let me back up here. So Pico Armor, Frat Spiel Games. This is Steve Fratt. FratSpielGames@gmail.com. No, he doesn't have a website yet. Here is his Civil War rulebook. Here is his terrain and stuff. And here is his Austerlitz. This is what he said was the whole battle. I did not question him closely about this. So here's back in the Armchair Dragoons area. Here is a game of Nevsky that's been going on. This ran several times. Here's the Pico Armor guys in full swing of Pico Armory goodness. And they're using the Panzer Blitz rules on this. So just FYI on that. And I'd be shocked if this wasn't tons of fun, right? Although there's been a big full-throated discussion about Panzer Blitz over on Twitter for the last couple of days that I really haven't participated in. But at this point, I think I would be a Panzer Leader guy rather than a Panzer Blitz guy. This is back to the Quatre Bras game, I believe. So the new Hall of Fame inductees for 2024 in the Adventure Gaming Hall of Fame. The new Charles S. Roberts Hall of Fame inductees are Mark McLaughlin. Trying to figure out where these partisans are going. Mark McLaughlin, Tom Douglas, and Charlie Kibler. Separate Hall of Fame, however, the Adventure Gaming Hall of Fame, the Origins Awards Hall of Fame have inducted the late Christopher Rush, who was an early Magic artist. I had not known he had passed away. He's not the only one who has passed away, though. But bear in mind, Magic's been around for like 25 years at this point. Of course, we've got Mr. Richard Berg going back. I don't think these were strictly in chronological order. We've got Don Greenwood, of course, looking rather dapper here. We've got Liz Danforth, legendary fantasy artist who contributed to many, many, many games and things. Darwin Bromley, who was the founder of Mayfair Games and who also recently passed away, despite how young he looks in this photograph. Relatively recently. It wasn't like the last two years or so. It was before that. Here's Greg Kostikian, legendary designer, most known for RPGs, but started with SPI, right, and participated in the development of things like Dragon Quest. Exactly right. Exactly right, Mo. Here's Larry Bond, Harpoon guy, as I tend to call him, but Larry's done more than just Harpoon. The late Lauren Wiseman, of course, who made enormous contributions to kind of almost everything GDW did. even if he was not necessarily the designer or developer, and was also really instrumental in Traveler, both before and after GDW. Next up, we have Roger McGowan, of course. Goes without saying that Roger deserves to be here. The late Aaron Alston. I forget how Aaron Alston passed away, but he has not been with us for a long time. Made huge contributions to D&D, to the hero system, a lot of other stuff. The legendary Mike Pondsmith, designer of Cyberpunk, along with a bunch of other things. And in recent years, R. Talsorian Games has come back to do Cyberpunk Red, the new edition of Cyberpunk. Here's the late, again, Eric Wujik. I've got a bit maudlin watching this because Eric Wujik is also no longer with us. Legendary RPG designer, probably best known these days for his contributions to Palladium, and for the Amber Diceless RPG, which was his design. Here's Kevin Sembayeta from Palladium Books, who's best known for Palladium Books. There's the late Janelle Jaquez, unfortunately, who passed away either late last year or early this year. Enormous contributions to all kinds of RPGs, and designed a lot of, both an artist and a designer that made huge contributions in both areas. Danny, thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated. Roger does have a book of his work coming, and I think it's going to release, or at least the pre-order price will go away on July 4th. So if you haven't pre-ordered from C3I Ops Center yet, it's another one where I think basically everybody's going to want it, right? Here's Ken St. Andre, designer of Tunnels and Trolls, Starfaring, Monsters, and a variety of other things. Ken's kind of a gaming industry legend as well. Here's Gerald Brom. This is the artist from the probably best known nowadays for the art from Dark Sun, very distinctive art style. Brian Foley, thanks for stopping by. And Rose Estes, who did a bunch of D&D stuff, but also wrote a bunch of the Endless Quest novels, which were extremely popular at the time. Recent inductee as well. Martin Wallace, who is a board game designer. Jeff Easley, legendary D&D artist. Also a bunch of other stuff. His art has been all over the place. Of course, Charles Roberts himself. Matt Leacock is one of the new inductees for 2024. I am largely unfamiliar with his work, but he is the designer of Pandemic, which has certainly made a substantial impact. So you just cross that off in your head. Don't just forget about it. It's fine. As Brant points out, HMGS, Kings of War, and Ares, and Warlord. Yeah, that's true. Warlord and Mantic were in the front, but still, in our front was Catalyst, which are the BattleTech people. And although they were selling Shadowrun as well, their booth was dominated by BattleTech. I have never played Pandemic. I probably should. It's supposed to be good. Here's Rebecca Gay, who is a magic artist and who has done a lot of art for other stuff now as well. Should H.G. Wells be in the Hall of Fame? Maybe. Why not? I knew Terry, not closely, but I mean, I met Terry a couple of times. Terry was a great guy. I greatly admired the work he had done with Rollmaster and with his own setting, Shadow World, which was, the kind of the original setting for the original non-Middle-earth setting for Rollmaster, that then was kind of taken over by Eidolon Studios, which basically was Terry. Terry passed away, unfortunately, several years ago. So to me, it was meaningful to see Terry's inclusion in this Hall of Fame. And there's a better picture of it. Dave Trampier. Why did this not happen 30 years ago, folks? I have no idea why this didn't happen maybe not 30 years ago, but certainly 20 years ago. Why did this not happen 20 years ago? Nobody knows. This didn't happen until this year. So here's me in my Hearn shirt. I just kind of wanted to show the Hearn shirt off. And you can see Catalyst behind us here. These are cool. These are little boxes for dice or whatever that are like mimics. I came really close to buying one of these, folks. I got to tell you. We're going to do a giveaway in just a couple of minutes here, but I'm going to have to do a switch of the screen again to get to that. So bear with me here, folks. All right, we'll get to it in a second. All right, you can see one of these. These guys were obviously thrilled with these things. These are awesome. No, it's an RPG giveaway. Here's me mad in front of the closed concession. This is Doc running demos of campaigns in Europe for the Wargame HQ area. And you can, in fact, see, I will have more to say about campaigns in Europe in detail. Yes, this is true. That might have sucked a lot of the gas out of Pandemic as a game. This looks great from what I can see so far. There's a very, very preliminary impression. I like what I see so far. I'm not sure I feel like it's really war in Europe, right? But that's okay. I'm fine with that. I want to see where they go with this series, and I can't wait to get the first one on map. Now, I was cranky. More than once. Here is Maneuver Warfare, the card game, which is from, it's either out or coming out from Dietz Foundation. The cards look nice. That's about all I know. I don't think so. They looked like they were cast resin to me. Loose Nukes. It looks very small and rather exciting. Here is a game with Mark Walker, his daughter, some random person, and McKenna, and the game is Votes for Women. And I'm pretty sure Tori Brown, the designer, was running this. Tori was there. I got to say hello to her. I didn't really have any extended conversations with her. So I am pretty high on Axis Empires, to be honest. So, but I don't think it's a good comparison to try to compare that to War in Europe either. So. All right, I am going to, here's Kevin Bertram. This is, I'm not sure what they are running here. Is this a Shakespeare game? It might be. I think it is. This is Shakespeare's First Folio. I don't know anything about this, but it's coming out from Fort Circle sooner or later. None of those people are the toast guy. Incidentally, I'd like to make a request of the audience, and for those of you who are planning on attending Origins 2025, I would like you to walk up to Mark Walker if you see him and just tell him what a pleasure it is to finally meet Larry Elmore. I'd like everybody to do that. I may give you $1 if you do that. So yes, Brand says Tori ran all the sessions of Votes for Women, which is my expectation. All right, let me pull this down and present a different screen because where's the screen? There we go. All right, folks. So let me pull myself up here. All right. So what we are giving away tonight, we might have more giveaways coming up, but this is what I got to give away tonight. And this is coming directly from me. So if you are in the continental U.S., I will cover, or if you're in the U.S., I will cover shipping. If you are not in the U.S., I will ask you to split the shipping with me. This is Dungeon Crawl Classics, the role-playing game. This is the complete and very thick RPG. It is a soft cover. They were $10 at Origins. I figured I might as well not be the only person lucky enough to take advantage of this. I like this as a D&D variant. It's got some things of its own to say, and it has excellent adventure module support. It is very much a dungeon crawling game. So if that's something you're into, then what you are going to do is type in #DCC in the chat, and you can have a chance to win this copy of Dungeon Crawl Classics. If I have more giveaways later on, I might, we might have more giveaways if I can get any of these Slytherin codes to work. So I don't know how popular this will be because this is a wargaming show, but this is what I bought 2 of. So, and I will be happy to send it out because I don't really need 2 of them. I actually have I have the hardcover already. So we got 19 entries so far, folks. So I'm just going to blab here while we, about various Origins related things, while we allow the entries to accumulate for a minute or two. Anyway, so, like I said, there will be dealer's room walkthrough. And that dealer's room walkthrough is about an hour video, by the way. John C's got it. He's thinking correct. But no. Like I said, if I could get these Slytherin codes, I got alleged codes for Fields of Glory 2 Medieval and Panzer something, and Battle Space, which is the Warhammer 40K game, which I wouldn't mind trying, right? I would give it a shot. But I couldn't get it to work, so I'm reluctant. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. If I figure it out, I'll give the extra codes away. I got an extra code for each of those 3 games. So, John, if you win, I will just re-roll, so it'll be okay. Yes, this is what I thought I was doing. And I can't get any of them. I tried multiple ones. I couldn't get them to work. So yeah, well, Brand hasn't seen it, but I felt like when I was doing after I turned record off after the walkthrough video, I felt like I'd gotten a little too snarky, so I got a little paranoid about it and watched it on my phone. And it's okay. It's a little bit snarky, but not too snarky. So I will release the video more or less unedited. So just bear in mind it's an hour, but also bear in mind you don't have to put up with hideous buffering either, because I didn't try to record it live. So, John, I agree, but I have played DCC before, and I am willing to play it again. So, should that opportunity arise, I feel like I'm missing some cavalry here. I'll pick through it later. But this is fair. This is fair. Yeah, this is more like level 1 or 2. Unless you were going to stand in the line with the toast guy, then you'd probably be at Snark level 3 to 5. So you may have already won. I could put a picture of Ed McMahon up here, but I'm starting to look like Ed McMahon, unfortunately. So there's that. All right, folks, I'm going to give this another minute or 2. We'll call it another 4 minutes. Hashtag DCC to win a copy of the very nice and very thick Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG. D&D style fantasy at its finest. Well, I guess we'll start a new compartment. Screw it. No, Fucko was there, but he was not the toast guy. Okay, I guess we got all the cavalry. What the hell was he doing? I don't know what the hell he was playing, to be completely honest. He might have just played Terraforming Mars with the Terraforming Mars people. I don't know anything about that. So, all right, Finn, thanks for stopping by. And hopefully we can catch up soon now that we're really not that far apart anymore. So, there was a bunch of pirate-themed things there as well. There was also a fair amount of cosplay visible on Saturday, especially. Of course, I left relatively early, so I didn't. You know what? I might have been fuming too hard to have noticed. So I did not make note of whether he elected to purchase the toast after it was explained to him. So start to get some of these generics out of the way here as well. I'm still going to have some. I have not been clipping aggressively tonight. I did not see. So usually, Scott Rowland, there are usually at least one small ASL game taking place in open gaming. However, I did not see that. So, but then again, I didn't walk around in open gaming because, like I said, I was trying to cut down the amount of footwork I had to do. So I only went down to open gaming to look around at on Wednesday night or something like that. So I would not assume that it wasn't there because it usually is. Usually it's a couple of locals playing a modestly sized ASL scenario or two. So it is possible that it was. I'm told there was some Battles of the American Revolution being played in open gaming, but I did not actually see it occurring. This might hit the merch store too, to be fair. All right, folks. We got 2 more. Screw it. I'm going to do it now. All right. Last chance on hashtag DCC to win a copy of the Dungeon Crawl Classics core book. So I'd like to say courtesy of Goodman Games, but no, it's courtesy of me. But that's okay. I don't mind. Secret password. I should have put hashtag toast, but no, it's hashtag DCC. Also, I will make an observation that the normal free for guests Wi-Fi at the Hilton is really very good as far as I could tell. Maybe that's something we'll do next time, is maybe try to do some live stuff from there and see how it goes. Okay, so Scott in Cincinnati saw U.S. Civil War, GMT's Vietnam, which I did not see. Battle of the White Plains is the one I heard that was going on. We had a hotspot last year, I think, and that actually went really well. And unfortunately, there was no hotspot this year. So, all right, folks, I'm going to push the button on hashtag DCC. We'll see who wins. It'd be nice if it was somebody in Ohio, so I could not pay tons of shipping. John Clark, awesome. Congratulations to John Clark. You have won yourself a copy, in the shrink wrap, no less, of the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game. We'll have a giveaway next week, too, for a different item. John Clark, in the meantime, please send me an email with your full legal name and legal shipping name, at least, and shipping address, and I will figure out how to get it to you sometime in the next couple of days. So congrats to John Clark for winning Dungeon Crawl Classics. I bought an extra Traveler Adventure, so we'll be giving that away next week. That I already had, so you'll see it when you see it. Was this? Oh, I would have totally taken pictures of this. That sounds great. There's no reason they couldn't finish that. I've played Fire in the Lake in 4 hours before. There's no reason they couldn't finish that, but it would be lengthy. It would probably eat a good chunk of the convention. All right. So again, John Clark, please send me an email at ardwulfslair@gmail.com. It is also in the ticker. And we'll get that out to you. And in fact, I may generate the label this very evening if you send it to me this evening. So let's pull this down. And go back to the Origins photos. All right, so here we have, and that is Bruce doing the OK sign over there. This is Air and Armor as well, slightly smaller scenario that they're showing off at this point. This was very well attended, and I'm sure they sold a copy of Air and Armor to every person who participated because Bruce was there. So, no, I got it home and realized I already had it. So that's what it was. So consider it my contribution. This was not when the game was actually going on, but I believe this to be some kind of midway thing. This looked pretty cool. This was right down the hall, the aisle from us as well. So this was my 28th Origins, and this is the first time I have been to the Origins Award. I went for a couple of reasons. One, hey, I'd never done it before. Two, they were honoring Jason Matthews and Ananda Gupta for Twilight Struggle, and I felt I should be there to represent for that. And they put Terry Amthor and Dave Trampier in the Hall of Fame, so I stayed for that as well. I do not envy the people organizing the Origins Awards. I understand that the Origins Awards have problems. Every awards have problems. I'm not saying they don't, but recognize the enormous ball of wax that those folks have bitten off because it's run by Gamma. It's the Origins Awards. They feel, and I think there's some justification for feeling this way, that they need to cover everything that is covered by Origins, which includes every type of game with the exception of digital games and war games, apparently. But we have the Charles S. Roberts Awards for war games. So I am thankful in this respect that we do not have to have that kind of scope creep. We have, done what we felt we needed to do to address the reality on the ground in our space. And I think we're in pretty good shape moving forward. I've just fucked that up. Okay. There was some kind of involuntary muscle spasm happening there. We'll just throw everything in a tray, sort it out later. It's fine. Could be the Scotch too. It's not Scotch, but it's Ohio whiskey, the finest whiskey of Ohio. All right. So we'll figure that out later. Anyway, yeah, 28th. So I've missed 2 since I started going in 1995. One because work sent me to Mexico, and one because I hurt my back and I couldn't walk. That was not a fun 2 years that went on. So, in any case, Iron Armor looks very impressive. I mean, you got to be interested in the topic, and that was my official excuse for not buying it. But then, then Bruce opened his mouth, and now everybody wants to buy it. So there you go. All right, so here's another photo. This is, I forget who's here. This is the start of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Here's Jason and Ananda talking about Twilight Struggle. I felt like I had to get a picture of that. Got a couple of pictures of that. Here's Terry's induction. This was this stand-up dragon here is about as tall as me. So it's not small. And I'm like, I took this picture, sent it to my wife, and said, I think I need one of these for the front yard. Iron Armor is not a Revolutionary War game. So there you go. So this is Hunt for Blackbeard. This is one of, I think, a couple of prototypes that Fort Circle brought with them. This is, again, Volko's new game. Anything that Volko's doing is worth a look. It is historically super duper interesting. Wouldn't call it a war game, but that's okay. Yes, Mean Joe Green. Yes, they absolutely do. I think Brant will be able to speak to this more than me because he pays closer attention to the War College because he is in contact with the people who run it. I pay very little attention to the War College because I don't have time to go over there. So, but yes, they do. And there were quite a few this year. So Jeff Anderson, thanks for stopping by. This was not mentioned. I didn't feel like the tone of the Origins Awards was suitable for heckling, or I might have. But is it a war game? And Jason would have probably said into the microphone, "Shut up, Gary." And I would have laughed at that too. But I didn't feel like it was tonally appropriate to do that there. So possibly because it's the first time I've ever been. So, all right, here's another shot of the very fancy and very nice looking Hunt for Blackbeard. This is Jim Davis, who is very fashionably attired, as you can see. Nobody's missing Jim in this stunning Ardwulf's Lair merch store t-shirt. Get yours now in the merch store. Link in the video description. And Jim's a great guy, too, so there's that. All right, this was Solder City. I think I didn't get a picture of... I tried to capture the name of the game in the photo, and I didn't do that. I'm pretty sure this is Solder City. This is coming from Catastrophe Games. This looks pretty interesting. This is going to be another... I met Jason last year. I'm not sure how that misunderstanding occurred. But yes, I totally did. This was not my first time meeting Jason. I talked to Jason more last year than I did this year. So... yeah, the hidden info mechanic looks potentially interesting, too. There will be people who maybe buy the game just for that. So Solder City is another one to keep an eye on. I think I expect this to do pretty well and be pretty well received. Let me put it that way. All right, here's some more folks playing Normandy 44. Again, fabulous game. Here's some folks in mid-game of Space Empires 4X. Here's Bruce and Fred and Lynn, who I didn't see here tonight, learning Iron Armor, and he came over and said, "Oh yeah, I'm buying it." I'm like, I knew you would. You know how I know? Because you went and talked to Bruce about it. That's how you know. Bruce's enthusiasm level for his projects is so high that it's totally contagious. It's not like Bruce is just a salesman. That's not what I'm trying to imply. What I'm telling folks is that Bruce's own passion for the stuff he's working on is so enormous that it just oozes out of him and oozes into you if you happen to be standing there. So the War College is basically the military history and military topics seminar track. So there you go, Eric Goebel. Outstanding. There's going to be some new shirts coming soon. All right, here's some folks playing Halls of Montezuma, which is coming very soon from Fort Circle, I think toward the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh, that's it. That'll be interesting. Word that Solder City and or Zermatt might be getting picked up by a bigger publisher and several additional games. Very interesting. Very interesting. I will report that news if it is actually announced. And as you can see, Princess Leia is in the background here. All right, so this is the 10K Games guys again. They were running demo slash playtest. Their game system is still being, it's not 100% nailed down yet, but I think folks will generally be pleased by the quality of the historical research that is being done. And I think people will also be very pleased with John's maps. So there's that. And that's the John Madison who does pop into this stream occasionally, by the way. So didn't see him here tonight. Yeah, this is why I bought NATO too, because I talked to Bruce about it, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta buy it now. So, and that's, kind of how it works. So, but again, it's not, it's my decision, right? What I'm going to spend my money on. But Bruce's enthusiasm is so radiant that it's very difficult to not get just as excited about this or NATO or Air and Armor or whatever it is. So, so this is two 2.5 by 8 folding tables was what they're on here. So yeah, it's 5 by 8. All right. Here's a closer look at one of the maps. These are, again, not the final maps. They also printed one on metal plate, which is pretty cool. They're talking about that being an add-on of some kind. Here is some kind of super duper ticket to ride, which I thought was neat enough to get a picture of. Here's something called Master of Wills, which I sort of glanced over as they were doing it, and this looks somewhat interesting too. Maybe I'll look at it at some point. Lots of folks did video with Bruce on NATO. Again, Bruce is happy to talk about it because he's excited about it, right? Here's We Are Coming Nineveh, which also has received, this is from Nuts Publishing. This also received considerable acclaim, and had I had the time to participate in other things, this was pretty high on my list of things I wanted to try out. And I didn't. So this is the Quattrobra miniatures game again. I believe it is using a set of miniatures called Charge or something like that. So, yeah, that's true. There are 234 people watching right now, folks. Folks watching on YouTube can only see the YouTube numbers, but I see all the numbers because I'm in the StreamYard dashboard. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. Please thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, or follow me, or whatever it is you do on the platform you're doing it on. Here is Mr. David Thompson holding court over Night Witches, which is coming out from Port Circle again, probably toward the end of the year. I have sat in on a game of this with Brant. Brant was the one actually playing. I was observing last year at Buckeye Game Fest, and I'm impressed with this collaborative effort by David Thompson and Liz Davidson. So interesting topic, and I will definitely be obtaining a copy of this. It is solitaire, but it is easily it's like you can play it cooperatively with basically no effort at all. Here's the cool banner that the Pico Armor guys had. I'm jealous because my banner, I don't think my banner is quite this nice. Here is, okay, so I think this might be the last photo. Am I right? This is the last photo. Ignore the stuff in the background under the plexi, but this is the loot from Origins. So as you can see, there was quite a bit. The war games are all kind of stacked up, although the C3Is are stacked up, and everybody else is stacked up by where I bought it from. But this was probably one of the higher loot year Origins for me. The only thing I dead nuts knew I was buying going in was I was going to stop at Chaosium and buy those 4 pieces, which are the Lunar Book for RuneQuest, the basic role-playing new edition, which I guess I got to check my email on that, because I want the PDFs for that, and the new Pendragon and the Pendragon campaign. It's okay. So I almost said it in a way that would confuse people. The new version of Pendragon and the Grey Knight campaign. There is a book called The Great Pendragon Campaign, which I hope they redo, but I don't expect that soon necessarily, because that is an absolute masterpiece. Mike, thanks for stopping by. I was planning to pick up the Fantasy Trip, the new edition of the Fantasy Trip from Steve Jackson Games 2 years ago at Origins. They didn't show up, so I didn't buy it and still haven't bought it. I am, not opposed to checking it out, but they've got to actually be there to sell it to me. Or I'll have to buy it through, a secondary source like Noble Knight or something like that, which could happen. But if I'm ordering from Noble Knight, they have freaking everything, so it's a little higher on the Origins acquisitions list than it is on the Noble Knight acquisitions list, if you know what I'm saying. So Night Witches is about the Soviet female bomber pilots in World War II that were called the Nachthexen by the Germans, the Night Witches. It's really cool history, and it's pretty widely known inside gaming at this point, because I want to say it was Jason Morningstar did an RPG on the Night Witches several years ago, and Liz interviewed him on her podcast about it. So it's an interesting topic. It's interesting that role-playing people got to this war game topic before the war game people did. I'm not shocked by this. I have not yet absorbed the material. I had some issues with the 5th edition, meaning I thought it was kind of crippleware that you could only play Celtic Christian knights from Salisbury, as I recall, in 5th edition Pendragon. And I hated that. There were all kinds of cool character options that they just left out in the 5th edition. So, it kind of looks like they're doing that in this edition as well, but I'm hoping it's a little more open than it used to be. So, Hexen, Hexen. So, yes, we already talked about this. On to Richmond. So, in celebration of their wins of Charles S. Roberts Awards, the fine folks at Multi-Man have put On to Richmond 2 Valley of Tears and Storm Over Jerusalem on sale for 30% off for a limited time. So I don't know what that means. Could be could go away tomorrow. It could be a month from now. I haven't the vaguest idea. So I did real well here. The one thing that I probably regret buying, other than the duplicate copy of Mysteries of the Ancients, is probably Xeno Language. I played this when it was in playtesting, but that was probably 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll grab this because I want to see what they did with it. And I opened it up and glanced at it, and it's got a Ouija board in it. And I think as a mechanic, I'm not really digging that. So I'll read it. I doubt I'll play it at this point. It's changed too radically from the indie RPG that I played to this. In any case, Fantasy Trip is a very interesting game that I would like to do some coverage on, but we've got about 13 minutes here. And so actually, I guess I did have just about enough material. So that is the last photo. We gotta put this back up. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I'd pick up the metagaming version, but I'm also unwilling to run down the metagaming version for some kind of collector's price between now and then, right? I would just as soon have because the new versions, if you buy the big box from Steve Jackson Games, it's got the reprints of Melee and Wizard and Advanced Melee and Advanced Wizard. So you pretty much have everything you would need. So I, come back to Origins or make it convenient for me to buy somehow. It's a huge box. I've seen it. I was actually going to buy it. It was in the budget for, I want to say it was last year, and they did not, or the year before, and they didn't come to Origins anymore. So I don't know if Brant has heard anything about attendance numbers yet. That sounds a little soon for them to have announced a number, but I would expect to hear that number this week. To me, it felt about like last year. Could have been a little up, could have been a little down. I don't know, but it wasn't radically up or radically down. There was noticeably more dealers overall in the vendor hall, but not necessarily more publishers or people that make games, where seems to be a huge growth sector at conventions, seems to be the sort of lifestyle stuff. People selling dice and t-shirts and coffee mugs and coasters and necklaces and garb and a variety of other things. In this case, we had both coffee and tea, gaming themed coffee and tea being sold by 2 separate vendors in the dealer's hall. I don't know. It is available on Warehouse 23. I'm just too lazy to mail order it. Jonathan Dyer said David Thompson mentioned the announced number earlier in the chat. I didn't see the announced number yet, and I missed that. 17,600. It could be low. I don't know. I don't know. It felt about the same as last year. 10% up from 2023. 10% is a pretty good growth rate. So there were a ton of artists. There were a ton of celebrities, some of whom didn't get announced, as far as I could tell, until the actual show. Adrian Paul was there, for example. Now, a lot of people responded to that by saying, "Who's Adrian Paul?" And then I explained it to them. But I was not aware. I mean, I looked at the guests list and he wasn't on there. And then here's Adrian Paul. I'm like, huh? What's going on with this? But they had a lot of gaming people and artists, and there was like a little author area too, which I thought was neat. Brant says he was announced ahead of time, but I missed it. So it's easy for me to miss this stuff, though, to be fair. So exactly, that Adrian Paul. But Meandering Mike knows what I'm talking. As usual, Meandering Mike and I feel separated at birth. I got to tell everybody here. And Adrian Paul was the Highlander, the TV series guy. What else do we pick up? I did this little side deal. Let me pull the picture back up, actually. So I did a little side deal for the thing on the war game on the bottom here is Year of the Hangman from Clash of Arms. Operational Revolutionary War. I'm all over that. There's very few games in that space. The map is intense, but not ugly. It's just intense. It's Terry Leeds map. It's quite an early Terry Leeds map. I'm pretty sure that Adrian Paul was not the gentleman in the concession line. But the big score was Crimean War. So thanks, Drew, for that deal. It was a good deal for both fairly beat up players copy games. Year of the Hangman's in pretty good shape. Crimean War is pretty beat up. And I also picked up Against the Reich, which is a mid 80s, I want to say, or early 80s maybe. Joe Belkowski design from West End. Definitely some precursor ideas to what later gets turned into Lee versus Grant, and then that later gets turned into GCACW. So I'm very interested in taking a closer look at that. So the Gen Con picks from last year looked absolutely insane. And that made me, I mean, I'd kind of like to go, but maybe that looks like you spin out on Sunday or something like that. Now that I'm an extra hour and a half away, so it'd be about a 3 or 4 hour drive rather than an hour and a half or 2 hour drive. It's a little less convenient for me to do that, but it's still possible. But then I see the pictures of, here's a balcony with 17,000 people on it that looks like it's going to collapse at any time. And I'm like, I don't know. All right. So the official people are saying 17,706 up 10%, 7,000 raised for Extra Life, and 5,600 games checked out of the library. So those sound like good numbers to me. It's a large facility. So it's a big number, but it's a pretty big facility. And if you stay out of the main gaming hall, and if depending on the kinds of games you play, you may never see the inside of that main gaming hall. It might not feel super duper crowded. If you're like mostly an RPG person and you're just over in the Hyatt, maybe you don't notice until you go to the dealer's room and then it looks busy. I thought the dealer's room is fairly busy, and you'll get to see the dealer's room in the walkthrough video that should be out later this week. So John Stanley, thanks for coming by. They're in areas that I didn't even know there was rooms in. So there's like a downstairs ballroom that I think I maybe have been in, but forgot that it was there, sort of under the escalators or something like that. So it's very intense. It's a very intense map. I will say that. I'm not sure. I don't think it's ugly. I think it's a nice piece of art. I'm not sure how it'll be to play on it. Let me put it that way. But again, how many operational Revolutionary War games are there? There's very few. So I was happy to pick it up. So oh, there we go. So 102 events at the War Game HQ and another 18 at the War College. So there you go. So that's quite a bit. So, all right. So what do we got going on this week? So there'll be a show with Dan tomorrow. I don't know what that looks like yet, but there'll be a show with Dan tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. There'll be a video later this week, which will be the dealer's room walkthrough. And if I can get the loot video done and not shitty, you'll see the loot video. Otherwise, it might be a different format type of loot video. Maybe it'll be really quick. I did a short on the loot that was like a buzz through, but then I went and bought a bunch more stuff. So there's that. I also bought the DCC dice set, which has crazy dice like the D5 and the D7 and the D24 and stuff. So, because who doesn't need those? So, 302 players in the Wargame HQ event. So that's a lot. And this is true too. I mean, obviously Friday, Saturday are the big days. So Anil Badkey, thanks for stopping by. And Last Stand, I did a buddy unboxing because Fucko had let me unbox his copy, and it looks pretty good. And I'm like, immediately, shit, I should have bought this. It's Operation Typhoon. I'm into that topic, so yeah, why not? And I think it's a Masahiro Yamazaki game. Do I have that right? I might not. So Bible Board Games, thanks very much. So yeah, so just FYI, the Wargame HQ is not like all the war games, especially if you count miniatures games. There was tons of BattleTech, very active BattleTech area. There was a huge miniatures area with the carrier. I didn't get pictures of half that stuff. Kind of right next to us. Plus the Ares people were kind of on the opposite corner. So there was like if we count miniatures, especially, there was a lot of wargaming. But even if you don't, there was a lot of wargaming, right? This is probably more organized wargame events than we've seen at Origins in quite a long time. So, in any event, I don't think there's a D13 in there, but I know there's a D14 in there. I'll have to check. The dice set was like $35, so it better have all the crazy dice. To be completely honest about it. I mean, if I was going to make a D5, I would just make a D10 numbered 1 through 5 twice. I got no problem with that. And you know, you could come up with a D14 relatively easily too. These are all needed for Dungeon Crawl Classics. So you know, this is going to be a complicated topic about, and maybe we get a variety of different people in to talk about this. About war games at the big conventions, right? Because I think it's a different approach to do wargaming at Origins versus doing wargaming at Weekend at the Warehouse or WBC or something like that. That is worth exploring in conversation, and I think we're not going to explore it this evening. So you could do a D26. I actually had some D24s already. You could do, and some D16s. You could do a D13 by doing a D26 numbered 1 to 13 twice. That would be relatively easy. I also have dice numbered with both D6s and D8s numbered in Roman numerals. There's a game that uses D8s as its like main die. It is, do I have it here? Well, it's here somewhere, but I'm not finding it. A game called Fulminata, which is an alternate history Roman Empire survives type of thing. So I want to make this. I don't want to suck up a lot of time about this because I talked about it last week, but I want to emphasize that I do not necessarily believe it to be practical for GMT or any other war game publisher to necessarily have a vending presence at all, or certainly not a major vending presence at conventions like Origins or Gen Con anymore. I think it's beneficial if they have some arrangement, but GMT has an arrangement with Enterprise Games where they're rep, and they're much closer, right? It's a little bit of it's a big logistical ask for GMT that's in California Central Valley to put everything in a semi and truck it all out to Columbus, Ohio, which would take 3 days. And then they go to a convention at which they have to pay at least $4,000 for the table space, not to mention housing and feeding all the people, and then put it all back on a truck and truck it back to California. If GMT's position is that there's no way we want to do that because that sounds like a huge pain in the ass, I can live with that. That said, there are other ways for companies like GMT or Multiman or Compass or whatever to engage with the wider public that is available at a convention like Origins that don't require them to buy a vendor booth. You send people out to run demos or tournaments or whatever. Have designers on hand. Work with a retailer that's ideally planning on attending the convention as a vendor anyway, to make sure that your stuff is being sold somewhere on the floor. I saw basically no Compass product. Decision didn't have any. Sometimes they do. Enterprise didn't have any. Sometimes they do. It'd be nice to see Compass games on sale there. And frankly, if there had been copies of Air and Armor there, I bet there would have been at least 25 copies sold. So there's that. If I can get this, like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to Mark Walker about this, but David Heath had a similar experience when he's like, for what it costs and the travel and, you know, the total cost of vending there is not worth it to me. It's worth it for him to go to, WBC, I think is what he said. And that's a completely different question. I'm not necessarily talking about vending. So, Jason, I think we've got some people at GMT that really want to come back next year. So don't necessarily expect a quote unquote GMT booth, but expect to see GMT games for sale in the dealer's room, and expect to see demos and some designer presence and stuff like that next year. So, all right. What else do we got going on? There's short scheduled most of the rest of the week already. So, because I set it all up last week, so I didn't have to worry about it. Other than that, everything is great. We're back, and I look forward to getting some more rest over the next couple of days before I have to. I'm back to work, but I'm working from home tomorrow and Wednesday, so I can at least immediately after work I can crash and just. There's no pressure. And hopefully by Thursday, when I get to drive down to Columbus again to go to the office, it'll be a little bit less pressure. So Enterprise does have exclusivity for GMT in the vendor hall. This is so. There has been friction about this in the past. So in any case, Henry Skursky, thanks for stopping by. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. I want to remind everybody, I guess, to like the video and subscribe or follow or whatever we're doing on whatever platform you're watching on. But we had in the neighborhood of 250 at one point tonight, and that is outstanding. We will be back with probably a more meticulously devised topic for next week. And in fact, I think we have another best of GMT scheduled for next week, unless I'm very much mistaken. So watch. I'm not saying that's the topic, but there'll be like a best of type topic that requires research and stuff for next week. And in the meantime, check out the show with Dan tomorrow. Once again, thanks everybody. There's ways to support the show in the video description, including the merch store and the Noble Knight affiliate link. Thanks to Noble Knight. Thanks to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you all again soon.